Warm greetings, everyone. Welcome to today's session of Monday Munching and Musing with Women for Water. This session is conducted with the support of Water Resource Council of the Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in collaboration with W4W Foundation and media partner Counterview. My name is Anubhuti Shekhar and I am the National Youth Representative of Community of Wiki Water Resource Council. I am joined by Dr. Mansi Bal Bhargava, who is currently holding the position of National President of Wiki Water Resource Council. Welcome, Mansi. We are glad to start the conversation, namely Monday Munching and Musing with Women for Water, which we colloquially refer as Blue Lips. The conversation is aimed to share the worries and the wisdom by the woman for the woman of the woman in the water sector. In here, we hope to learn about the water endeavors of the woman in a regular disciplined manner, like a masterclass. Today, in this session, we are here to listen and know more about Radhika. An environment engineer by education, Radhika has worked on environmental management and corporate responsibility spanning across water, solid waste, and air. She has worked extensively on integrated urban water management models and rural water and sanitation and household water security. She has 18 plus years of experience in environment and sustainability and solving on-the-ground environmental issues, working for organizations like TERI, Argyam, and US EPA. She is passionate about innovation and has worked and supported innovation that solve environmental issues. She currently heads design and development at a green tech startup called Devic-Earth and is founder of Kapokseed, an innovation platform on environmental sustainability. Welcome, Radhika. We are so happy to have you on today's session. We would like to start this conversation by knowing about your journey. How did you step into the water sector and how are you currently engaged in the water sector?
Okay, so my journey is a long journey. I'll try and keep it brief. I think I did environmental engineering at a time when really, I mean, nobody was talking about the environment. And there was only one university, the Mysore University, that offered environmental engineering. And the reason I got into it was, I mean, I wanted to have an impact on people and health primarily. Of course, I wanted to be a doctor, but that didn't pan out. And I said, what is the next best thing? And I said, environment engineering seemed to be really like kind of hit a spot with me because I felt like this is the way that I can really give back to people, to society, you know, have an impact on it, right? And of course, there was environmental science was a very popular course at that time. But I went for engineering because it looks at solutions. And I think that's where the impact is. I mean, not that science doesn't have an impact, but for me, that really kind of resonated. So, of course, in the course, of course, was good and everything. And then I went on to do my master's in the US, at Texas Tech University. Water was huge at that time. I mean, more than any other sort of sector, right? Air, waste and stuff, water and water management, you know, because that's something that we have to live with day in and day out, right? So it was huge. And once I started working, and my first company was in the design of wastewater treatment. And I quickly realized that what we learn in school, in college, is very different from the real world, right? I mean, because you're learning formula from scratch, you know, how to design a wastewater treatment plant, but that very rarely happens in real life. I mean, you're always, you know, kind of refurbishing and, you know, restructuring. So, it was a lot of relearning for me in that sense. And I think that's one of the, I think from very early in my career, that is one of the things I have always tried to work with students. I've created programs for students to show them what is real life experience of, you know, what we learn in college. I mean, we will learn concepts in college, which is in school, which is great. but how are they applied in the real world and in the when you start working, and that I've tried to create programs around that, so short, quick, training programs, so that students get a feel of how it is, how are the concepts applied in real life. So I actually then moved on to, I worked in the air sector for a while with the government in the US. I moved back to India 2004, and that's when the water was really kind of becoming an issue, with bore wells were getting deeper, and the quality of water was like getting worse. And so I were both with Terry and Argyam, as you mentioned. I worked extensively on water. With Terry, it was mostly urban water management issues. Worked with a lot of corporate industry and looking at the holistic, like integrated water management, right? And looking at how much water are they using? Can we find ways to reduce their usage in the consumption? And then can we look at ways to reuse that wastewater, treat it and reuse it back in their process? And the third one is rainwater harvesting. And rainwater harvesting was just catching on really big at that time. There were very, very few players, who could really design a good rainwater harvesting system. I think even today, I would say there are a little bit few more, but then I would still take it with a pinch of salt. But there were at that time just I could literally count them on my fingers. And so but through implementing these three aspects, we could reduce about 40%, 20 to 40% usage. We could reduce of fresh water. Right, so that 20 to 40% less usage of fresh water is what we could achieve in a lot of industries and software campuses, communities. In my own community, for example, we did a lot of rainwater harvesting. Our bore wells went from 400 feet deep to 1,000 feet deep. And then we started looking at bore well recharge, which we found to be more effective. In fact, today that borewell is still running. 10 years later, it's still running because of that borewell recharge. So I was involved in a lot of that, and then again, another thing that really caught my passion was innovations, like you had mentioned. I am passionate about just different the new innovations that come out in every sector, and water was, of course, at that time the big thing. And a lot of universities were coming out with this really very, very good research, but all that comes in research papers, and it doesn't see the light of day. So I was part of a small company where we worked with universities to create a go-to market for that solution. So for example, we worked with IIT Madras, where they had a very innovative solution using nanomaterials to remove arsenic from water, and worked with governments intensively to bring that to the market and actually implement it. So they were empaneled as a non-RO solution. Another thing also during the course I worked with Anargam was water and sanitation. And that actually was extremely interesting because we went to the villages. We did these surveys on, household water and water, and sanitation. And it revealed so much about the situation on the ground, right? We were able to learn that, water reliability, water availability, water accessibility, and it's so different for different sectors of people, different villages. The issues were the same. It's only the extent to which they were bothered by it that were changed. We learned so many things like people are willing to pay for television, but they're not willing to pay for water because they feel it's the government's role to provide water, which we agree. But then the issue comes of quality. How good is the quality of water that's from their bore wells, right? And there are so many insights that came from just having these focus group discussions with these people in the villages, with the gram panchayat. We're looking at governance issues, and we actually worked with 2 gram panchayats to look at their entire governance, the organizational development, because each time the NREGA funds or any kind of funds come to the Gram Panchayat, the only project that they can put up is a construction of drains. And then, how many drains can there be in a Gram Panchayat? And, and that was the, so we had to actually, we strengthened the organization, the Gram Panchayat as an organization, to actually look at what are the issues bothering them. Is it water? Is it waste? Is it something else? Is it employment? And then structure their governance, empower them to make better decisions on how to use the funding that's coming to them. So all that is a lot of learning. There's just one more thing which I want to mention here is I worked with UN ESCAP, the Economic and Social Commission, where we looked at in Southeast Asia, the household water security. So me and my partner, we kind of worked in India. So looked at few Gram Panchayats and looked at a lot of secondary research, and we came up with a household water security index. So that we can rate in any village or any Gram Panchayat what is in terms of reliability, accessibility, availability, quality, and things, and create an index that is easy to measure, and it's easy to sort of, as soon as you look at it, you say, okay, this is where the Gram Panchayat or the village lies in terms of water. And that was actually very well accepted by the ADB, and they published it in their annual conference and everything. So that is where my journey with water has come. I mean, it's just kind of evolved and into different over different sectors, over different things. Currently, I am not actively working in water, although indirectly I am still working with my community and indirectly working with other small groups on different issues. But my main job is is not in water right now.
Right. Thank you, Radhika ma'am. Like you mentioned about taking up environmental engineering when people didn't know about it. So it must be very difficult to make that choice because there was nobody to guide you along the way. So was it difficult for you to take up this environmental engineering? If there was difficulties, how did you sort of manage? Would you like to share something about it?
Yeah. Honestly, I think my family was supportive because they knew where I was coming from. They knew what my interests were. Of course, there was a little bit of push trying to make me take computer science because computer science is the end thing, right? So, but I was quite adamant that I don't want to do that. And then they were supportive. And the course itself, I mean, there were others also in that course. And as such, I didn't face any difficulties, if you will, in doing in the course. I think where around the year 2000, when I don't know if you probably would not remember, Mansi would remember the Y2K issue, when where people were scrambling to sort of fix the date issue, and a lot of people in the US were coming to India, taking a 3-month training course and going back to the US and earning really big money, kind of getting into these big companies doing this programming. And of course, environment doesn't pay so much. Even today, it's not a very well-paying job. So at that time, a lot of people advised me, what are you doing in the environment? Okay, it's great, everything, but why don't you do this course? And why don't you, go and, you can start earning a lot of money. And I mean, I was again adamant. I said, that is not what I want to do. That's not how I want to make an impact on the world. And this is what I'm passionate about. Thankfully, my husband supported me in that. And, and I was then working, got a government job, and I was working with the, state government at that time. And exactly 2 years later, the same people who forced me to who were encouraging me to kind of do this course, got laid off from their respective companies, and they come to me and said, you made a wise choice and wise decision to not move. Like, yeah, I mean, for no other reason, but just that I was just passionate about it, right? And that's all mattered.
Right. Thank you. I think you have mentioned so many things that you have worked over the years. It must be very enriching and sort of rewarding for you. How do you sort of balance your work, and how do you balance work and life? Did you ever feel that because of being a mother or being a woman, you had to compromise anything because of your work? Like, did
Yeah.
you ever feel that?
Of course. I mean, I don't know if you'll ever find a woman who'll say no and who has had a perfect work-life balance. I don't believe it exists. Honestly, between you and me, I don't believe a perfect work-life balance exists. I was, working with Terry when I had my first child. Then I started working part-time, 3 days a week. And it was not very satisfying because I was neither 100% at work and neither 100% with my child. So then I took a break and I said, okay, let me spend it with my child. And that's when I said, I can't stay idle. So that's when I started working on community issues. And I worked on, just looking at water issues within our community, looking at waste management within our community. So I didn't have to really leave home, but then I also I could use my expertise in that area. Again, same thing with my second child. Again, when I took a break, then I went into teaching. I taught at a nearby management school. I taught environmental management. So I think while I can tell you that I was never out of touch with my career, with my passion, definitely there are times when I feel like if I had stuck on to do my job, I may have been on a different path, and I may have been on. I mean, I think that kind of those thoughts, I think any of us would have. But I think I feel blessed that I was able to take those breaks and actually spend time with my children while still adding some value, to the community and to the environment.
Right. Thank you so much. I think you have mentioned a lot of things, and I would request Mansi ma'am to take it from here, and then we will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Anubhuti. Thank you for starting the conversation and engaging Radhika in such a wonderful, I will say unleashing her, past experiences with such, enriched, I will say, collaborations apart from, her personal journey. And thank you, Radhika, for agreeing to take this conversation at such a short notice. And that's, I think, definitely due officially to announce here. My next question, after Anubhuti has asked few questions about Radhika being Radhika, I would like to take it further to community, leadership, women in general, and really explore your experiences where you came across several of your colleagues working in the sector, and and seeing the status of women in the water sector and also other environmental activities, because as you rightly mentioned that you have transcended from water to other community and environmental activities as well, and especially being in the field of innovation, or you may have come across very few women in the sector. That is also something which I would like to know. Where do you really see the status of women in terms of professional women in the water and environmental sector? And when I'm asking this question to you, I also mean to learn from your experience. How do they perform? But at the same time, have you come across many women in the leadership role in these sectors?
I think great question, Mansi. And first, thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure to talk to you and Anubhuti. I think it's a great question. Women in this sector exist. I mean, in fact, they are the ones who are passionate about this sector, right? I mean, let's just put it that way. If you look at any community, and as I said, during my breaks with the kids, I worked on a lot of community issues, and that's when I interacted with a lot of other communities, right, who were on the similar journey, and or any community that was working on, say, water or waste, or in this sector. Basically, primarily water was a big issue, so water was the thing, and the people leading it were women. I mean, it was almost like an unsaid thing that women will lead it, right? I mean, because I feel, and this is where I know all these women were probably software engineers, or other sectors, and who again perhaps were taking a break like me for kids, and then they got passionate about the nearby lake. I mean, I have a really good friend who worked on Hulumavu. I think you have met her, Mithan. Yeah. And she has galvanized community action to clean up the lake and to keep it clean, right? And but similarly, within their own housing communities, apartments, I saw women taking a lot of these leadership roles, and really sort of pushing for change and doing a great job at it, right? And doing a great job at it. And I mean, and it also always made me wonder, though, right? Now, these community issues, whether it's air, water, waste, whatever it is, impact each and every one in the community. But why is it that women are pushed to that, or women end up taking that role, right? I mean,
that's a good question even I have, huh? Eventually, why it's their responsibility to clean up the mess.
Exactly. I mean, very well put, right? It's almost like this is, and I see very few men really coming up, they will all support from, Piche, and they'll say, oh, yes, this is a great initiative. We will support, our association funding, for this particular activity, all that, that is there. But the people leading it are always women. And it, I know, I feel like a few things, right? One is, in general, women have that passion. I mean, when they care about something, they care about it a lot, I think, and they are willing to put in that work, to do it. I mean, they because they want to see the impact, right? For men, I think it always comes up to, if I'm putting X amount of work, I need to get this much of money, or whatever it is, right?
Input, process, output.
Output, yeah, because I mean, whatever, whether it's the societal assumption that men are the breadwinners of the house, or whatever it is, I think that I think a lot of that.
Only carry out hobby. Is that an indirect way?
No, and that is exactly I keep asking that question, right? Why is it do women not have the same? I'm sure they have the same need, or the same want to kind of go professionally and earn and everything, I'm sure. But for whatever reason, they are at home, and then they need. But having said that, I feel like a lot of these initiatives have been successful because a woman has been leading it, right?
And also because they have been passionately doing it, and not really seeking any economic gains out of it.
Exactly, they're doing it to make a change, and they go into the nitty-gritty. They're ready to go into the details, and they're not expecting huge reward. They're not expecting anything. All they want to see is a positive impact, because they feel, oh, it's our kids, it's our future generation that's impacted by it. So I think I think that's a positive side, I think, because women are, I think, that way fantastic leaders, and because when they become passionate about something, I think they just go all out and get it. Just go for it, I think. Yeah. And but lately now, because I'm now again more active professionally, I'm meeting a lot of women who are in this field, who have been in this field in a professional way as well. So a lot of ESG folks, environment, social governance, a lot of them are women who have been in this field, and they have told me how difficult it has been for them, because in those days, it was all about going and doing the hard work, going out in the field, testing, going out, climbing the stack and, doing, whatever, so monitoring and everything. And a lot of times there was an unwillingness to let the women do it, within the organization. And women had to actually, put their foot down and say, hey, this is my education, this is my job, and I will do it, and go for it. And they have been successful, and they have grown in their field and really made an impact. So, but I would say that is it exists. I think professionally, I mean, I'm thinking it could have been better. And not that I think there are many women who have been in this and professionally really making a difference. I just feel it could have been better. I think because a lot of these, especially water, all these related tasks, the first level of entry, the entry level jobs are a little difficult in terms of, because you have to go into the field, you have to do these measurements, you have to do that. And I think a lot of women back out, not necessarily because they can't do it, but because they get pressure from family and things like that. So, but still, I think it's still positive. I think it's still, there's still a lot of women in the field, so which is very encouraging.
Yeah. I think very well put. I mean, I'm going to pick two things from what you just said. Is many of the women took up environment, because they could really see the need for it, probably because they were actually taking a break in their life, many of them, including you and probably me also at some point in time, so that they could really see things more clearly and they could engage more passionately vis-a-vis starting with an engagement professionally, which also limits to do things in certain way, that's one part of it. And the other part, you do mention that many of the women who you meet in the water and waste sector are women leaders. If that is the case, we are also aware that actually when we talk about a larger form of leadership, let's say in the policy making, in really big organization positions, and game changers, we still find very less presence of women. And talking about the professional women also, the statistics are very bleak still in India. Probably we are now in a network, and that's why we bump into many of each other, and we feel that the sector is quite rich in terms of quantity of women folks. And the global statistics still shows quite weak, which is 20%. So 1 in 5 water professionals are women, and India is less than 1 in 10. Wow. So we are, really quite far, and we still have long way to go. But having said that, what do you think is missing from being a woman leader at a grassroots level, which we come across because we work in the grassroots? And where is that missing link for them to really reach a substantial position or a leadership role where they can really change the game at a city level, state level, national level, international level? Then the number becomes, it's a pyramidal thing, Correct. So a lot of workforce still are women, especially in the environmental sector, we find a lot of women. But when we really zoom into looking at the real leadership roles, the number becomes quite bleak. I mean, even if I look at the educational department, I look at engineering, IIT, IIMs, they are not confined to water and environment. Still, it's, patriarchy, masculinity, whatever you say. But focusing on the water sector, the situation is still weak at the higher order of the pyramid. So where do you think women are really missing that step to go further, Personally, in my opinion, being professional, we are a lot in numbers. But being professional isn't really getting us enough to bring a change in the society. And it requires that extra step to be the leader. So professionals, we are many probably, but still we are less than 1 in 10 in India. but I'm still seeking, probably I'm quite greedy in terms of leadership, I must say. But where is that missing link to reach there where we can really change some things, I'm not saying that every water minister or environment minister should be woman, and why not? Since independence, we have barely had 4 or 5 women ministers in the water and environment sector. But still, where is this game we are losing?
Yeah, I mean, great question, Mansi. Great question, and
my burning questions, to be honest, in my head.
Honestly, yeah, no, and you're right about this not being confined to the water sector, right? In general, women in leadership positions, right? If you look at that,
yes.
I mean, I think I mean, I feel some of it has to do with our own maybe lack of confidence sometimes, so it is, if you look at the same of this woman who is in the grassroots or, in a volunteer capacity is doing amazing things and really bringing about change, fighting with government, galvanizing people, doing everything. But you take that person and put her in a corporate role or a little bit kind of a leadership. I mean, this is a leadership role that she's doing at the grassroots. But if you put her in a more formal, like formal role, I feel that imposter syndrome comes in, right? I mean, oh, do I really belong here? Can I really do this job? Or I think that maybe part of it is that we ourselves lack that confidence to go and say, hey, we can be the minister of RDPR, for example, and we can do this, right? We can, and so I think maybe part of it is that, and I think, and then of course, another part is, of course, because we generally have a career fallback in the middle years, due to family obligations and everything. So getting back and, starting and then rising to a leadership position it takes time and it's not easy. And I think the ecosystem is still not mature. It's still not mature. Yeah, it's still not mature to allow easy transition of women back to work. I think I see some change, some niggling changes here and there. I mean, I'm sort of talking about in general for all sectors. But I think it really needs to be faster. The change needs to come in much faster because there are so many women who are waiting to come back to work. And they, at a certain point, at a certain age, we don't want to come back into a junior position. We want to come into a reasonably, a sort of mid-level senior position and then grow from there. But the ecosystem is not mature enough to recognize, that thing. And I feel there is a huge gap over there, which organizations need to fill, which government needs to fill. I mean, you can't really get into government after a certain age, right? I mean, that's irrespective of every effort. That's true.
But that's ridiculous also. I mean, I feel why bureaucrats have to be at the age of 26, 27 and not at the age of 45 or 46, because when they are mature enough.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think that is something that we really need to look at, because, when you have an experience, you have a rich experience working, say, in corporates, working in NGOs, having a little on-ground experience, then you go into advocacy and you go into policy making. How much richer is that going to be, right? I mean, I think that one needs to really look at that. I mean, if you have politicians who can, be in there for that 70 and 80, surely our bureaucrats can do better. But yeah, I think I mean, there's gaps all across where we really need to, as a society, kind of fill, and encourage women to sort of come back to work. A lot of people like to take a career change, at around, I've seen at the age of 35 to 40 years old, all of them, a lot of people, including men, women, I'm seeing a lot of career change. They want to go into or impact, right? Anything that creates an impact. And our ecosystem should be, allowing them to do that. And, and then creating opportunities for them. So, yeah, I mean, I think we have ways to go where that's concerned. Yeah.
You know, a very important point raised here. This comeback is kind of it reduces the pace of, I will say, advancing women at a faster rate. That is from her own side. That's one part of it, and the other part of it is the ecosystem, which it still needs to be in place. But do you also think that leadership is something very inherent in someone's ability, and they can really fight it out through their own merits, or it's also that these two are equally important? I believe that all three are equally important, because leadership, if we are really talking about leadership as a game changer, at a massive scale, of course, all leaders at all scales are really having those qualities. But you know, when we are talking about women who are restarting their career, many of the times we really see that this course comes into picture, that the short of confidence, you know, again starting from zero, and then the loss of time also takes a toll on their own emotional, physical health, and by the time they are at substantial age to take up very important roles and positions, the very few are left. Anyway, leaderships are going to be a pyramidal situations, you know, because we are talking about, and the competition gets higher.
Correct.
And women have to really take a call. And many wise women have taken a call to even stay out of leadership, because they, at the end of the day, they would also like to have peace of mind, good health, and do their professional work with rigor, as they have been doing all their lives. And these are all personal choices. But having said that, when women are not taking the leadership roles, and at the same time, we keep saying that we are short of women in the water sector and in the leadership roles, somewhere the contribution is just falling short to really bring a change, both in gender and in the water sector. And that's probably my way of looking at things, that if we are not taking that extra step in our own lives, we are also not taking that step to bring a change in the society. We may be doing very good water works, but leadership requires that extra mile, taking that risk, you know, just throwing yourself out into the public domain and really doing all sort of things which are required to bring a change, even if it is whistleblowing. I mean, we do see people like Medha Patkar, Sunita Narayan, Vandana Shiva. I'm just giving these three names just to give the three categories or three wide range of work which these three women have been doing. I still feel that I would like to really see them go that extra mile. They are still leaders in their own respect and their field. But I feel that there is something extra for leadership. I mean, what do you think that a leader should really have as a quality, as a person? What kind of qualities are required in the leadership, so that people are listening to them, so that people would trust them to take bigger responsibilities than they are taking today? You know, certain we are blindly believing our politicians for God knows what reasons we are believing them. but when we focus in the water sector, we know we are in a rising water crisis situation. And there are quite a good number of women professionals, of course, also male professionals. But because we are discussing on women, we're focusing on them. What do you think, what additional skills women should really acquire, apart from this, I will say, that inherent characteristics which a leader has, irrespective of gender? What are the skills which women should really, inhabit or maybe inculcate in themselves to make their journey towards leadership faster, or the transition becomes easier? Not easier, I mean, easier is a wrong word, but make it possible.
No, I think to that, Mansi, I would say that women are natural leaders, and I'll tell you why I say that. Because at home, if you look at it, I mean, a woman is doing everything, right? If you take any typical household or anything, right? They're doing everything, and most often single-handedly, right?
Yes.
But then we fail to recognize that that's also leadership. That
Yes, of
is,
course.
yeah,
Yes.
because you
It's
are
just
taking
that it is
decisions.
not recognized. That's
It is
also my
not
concern. It is
exactly.
not acknowledged. It is
It's
not
not
appreciated.
exactly. And because of that reason, we don't acknowledge and we don't appreciate ourselves for that, right? And I think that attitude is should change within us, right? If we know that I mean, hey, we have handled this, and just going out and speaking and standing for what we believe in. I mean, you're going to be a natural leader out there as well,
Yeah.
right? And I think, like you have mentioned, of course, a few names in terms of women leadership. I feel like Sunita Narayan, when she started CSE, um, I mean, it was such an activist organization, and she was just raising hue and cry for everything. And the government was just like, oh, what is this kind of needle, constantly poking at us. But and under her leadership, she has evolved CSE into an activist, from an activist organization to a think tank, right?
Yes.
And which is amazing. I think because at some point, right? I mean, that's when people start listening to you, when you become a think tank and you're putting out
Absolutely.
authentic research. And so I would call out another leader like Rohini Nilekani, who
Yes.
is founder of Argyam, and she's passionate about water, and and she has supported several organizations, grassroots organizations across the country, doing different works in water, right? And so I think for two things. So one is, I you don't necessarily have to be a very well known leader to have maximum impact. I think if you are a leader where you are, in your community, in your organization, where and you have you are and when you're passionate about it and you are working on it, I think honestly, if when you are putting in the work, people see it and people come and support you, and and then you kind of build that community and galvanize action. I think that change, I think you have these change in these pockets, which eventually comes up like I said, in a pyramid, and sort of scales across the country. So I think um, to aim to be a leader like Sunita Narayan, I don't think we need to start with that. I think we just need to start recognizing that we are leaders. We are able to make decisions. When we are passionate about something, we are able to get people to believe in our cause, and we can do this. And I think that makes you a leader. And then so you start making impact in your area of where you're living, where you're working, where you start making that impact, and that itself will grow. I mean, who knows whom you interact with and what influence you may have on that person,
Yes.
who will go and actually create something remarkable there. So I think so that way, I think each and every one of us are leaders. You don't have to be running an organization. Now in terms of, okay, advocacy, how do we get to those policy levels? How do we get women to go up to those policy levels to make the right calls, to make the right policies? I think that requires a lot of work, because right now and we've had these discussions on these manuals and all that, and where there are just men making decisions on water, and it's just coming top down. um, I think that's where we need a little bit more work, where we are raising our voices from the ground, and contacting the right channels to say, hey, we need women input in these. And I think the change will come. I think we just need to make it faster. I think that is the problem. And I think more of us think of ourselves as leaders. I think that change will come faster. I mean, we know, like you have been so well, I mean, good in encouraging us to say, write to the people, and protest against this manual, right? Protest against this. And I think that's where you start, and that's where you start getting, people start recognizing you as that, okay, you know what, this is something worthwhile, maybe we should listen to, and make that change. I think there's still a long way to go. I don't deny it, but I think it's important to recognize that we do have the power. I think that we start with that.
I think self-confidence is extremely crucial in that case as a personal skill. You know, as you are mentioning, you put some interesting observations from your you know, experiences here. Just to reiterate those points and get some more insights from you, when we are talking about leadership in these manners, it still you know, it is still justifies. But when we are really seeing, as you also noticed and you mentioned, that in policy, it's all men deciding about it. And that's where the whole concern is from my end. And also this whole conversation series is based on it, that if we are satisfied with the work professionally, which we are doing, it isn't really changing things where it is required in terms of decision making. So because if we are not in the decision-making situations, we end up actually receiving wrong decisions and trying to do it in right way.
Yeah.
Which is not the right thing to do. So I was really keen to understand from you, what are those extra leadership skills required, which can be acquired by training, by something or something, where women can really, it's not pushing men and taking those positions. And if it requires, why not? You know, I mean, why not? But then there has to be some skills which are required for women to be really seen as leader. And as one of the skill you rightly mentioned is self-confidence is extremely important, you know. And personally, I also believe that networks are extremely important, because that's required. You have to know people and people have to know you, as simply put, not for self-promotion, but then it's, you know, the whole sector is getting promoted and known. For example, the whole imagination that water sector is engineering based itself is a myth. You know, it's the water management is as much people management as it is technology and science management. So if there are women who are working in the social science of water, they are equally important as women who are working. So we also need people to really change this myth around in the society. And that's where many of the women become voice of it. And trust me, the more I am making noise about women, more I am disadvantaged. But personally, I feel that my disadvantage will really result in many advantages in future when it is about bringing women into those situations where they can sit together and make decisions. I have been very, very disadvantaged of making noise about all kinds of manuals and all kinds of situations where I don't see women, and I really feel very you know, awkward about it. But the more we make or more we do whistleblowing, the more we are disadvantaged. And that's also a fact. That is the enabling environment which you were talking about in, you know, that this whole environment is required. But we, unless and until we make noise or we whistleblow about these situations, things are not going to change. That's also fact. So I think many of us have to really take the onus or responsibility to do that. Knowing that it may disadvantage is probably a better situation than you know that you are not going to get advantage out of it and you still want to do it, which is, I think, a case when many mothers or women who are taking break in their lives, they get into these kind of environment, social activities, because they are not expecting any returns out of it. You know, so sometimes I feel many of the leadership activities are also no return activities.
In fact, I mean, a few things that you said I'd like to, you know, comment on. But the last thing is, I feel the leadership is for the cause or for the, you know, purpose, right? You're having a larger purpose that you're working for, because leadership can never be for yourself. Then it's not a leadership, right? A leadership is always for a larger purpose. And I think once you have that purpose, people will follow your vision, and that is what creates a leader, right? And that, I think you're absolutely nailed it, right? So, so So some of the things that you said, when we raise our voice, that we are disadvantaged, right? I mean, like I mentioned, Sunita Narayan's case. I mean, people were like, oh, CSE is just activism based. It's this, is that. But today, look at her and look at the organization. She is on several, government panels and things like that, right? So it is a matter of time. I think it is. So if we believe in it strongly, and it may be a short-term disadvantage, but I think in long term there will be change, right?
Yes.
And I think that
For
is
more
the,
people. For
yes,
more
for
people.
more people. And I think that is what you have to keep in mind. It's okay to be in an uncomfortable situation right now, because you are looking at long-term, long-term benefit. So I mean, I would still say, I mean, continue to question, continue to point out what's not right, and even to the youngsters these days, right? I mean, I think, I mean, you have to, when you recognize in injustice, or when you recognize things are not going in your the right way, raise your voice, because if you're not raising your voice, you
You're
are
submitting.
accepting it. You're
You're
accepting
submitting.
that. Yeah, you're submitting to it. So I think it's important to recognize
Raising voice is important. Leadership skills, actually, to begin with.
it is very important. The other one, other thing I'd like to say is, like you said, of course, the social aspect of water. But before that, I feel data, right? Now, and I can give you an example from my own journey. When we did a survey in Karnataka across 172 gram panchayats and looked at the water and sanitation situation, we collected, I mean, I said, a lot of insights. And then with that insight, we went to ministry, saying that this is from the ground. Now you can throw policies from above as you want, right? But they're not going to work, because this is the ground
Which we have
reality.
seen in many of the cases. Har ghar jal nal and what not. Har ghar
you build a toilet, there's no water. I mean, or there's no awareness on why one has to use the toilet, right? CSR, I've seen millions of CSR activities where the company goes and builds toilets. We build, 10 toilets in that village. But एक महीने के बाद जाओ, there's like, it's nothing, it's used as storerooms, right? So that, I think, so that the data and the understanding of the ground reality is extremely important. And so, yeah, and so people working at the grassroots, it's important for them to collect that data and raise their voice and bring notice to the societal implications, because policy is not just about some rules and some regulations. It's about
sitting in Delhi and making it.
Yes, you can't sit in one ivory tower and make the decisions. You have to understand the ground reality. How is it going to be implemented? How are people going to react to it? I think it all makes a difference. And I think understanding the grassroots is very important. So for women who are leaders in their grassroots organizations, it's important to, either through articles or through letters or through publications or through whatever channel that they have, to make these issues known. People may not listen the first time, second time, third time, but eventually you will get that ear, right? People will hear what you have to say, and people will understand that there is a lot of validity in what you're saying, because you're backing it up with proper data. And I think that's when you start, it's a long, slow process, but I think it's worth it, because that's when you really have to, you really see the change, right? And that's important, I think.
I think very important point raised here, although I mean, we have not discussed it at length, because that requires an independent discussion altogether. Because one thing is managing the resource, and another thing is managing the knowledge of the resource, where you were talking about the data management, We have been poorly managing water because we have been poorly managing the knowledge and the data of the water,
Exactly.
So I think we need a separate session for that. But I will throw my last question before I hand it over to Anubhuti, because she has also very interesting question. Maybe you take us quickly through some insights on what Devic-Earth does, because that's it looks quite interesting at your background. And also we would like to see how does it links with water activities, and can we link it with some more water activities in the future?
Yeah. So as I said, Devic-Earth, we actually work on air pollution. So I said, what I'm right now, I'm not working. So what we're doing is we are, I head the product development and research. So we created a product which works on mitigating air pollution in the ambient air, which is actually one of its kind. And we use Wi-Fi, like the 2.4 gigahertz radio frequency to do that. So it's pretty much, it's a very unique solution, and it actually works over large areas. The challenge is, of course, to get people to really understand the technology and use it. But we've got a good deployments both in industry as well as government. So that's our, journey in short. And in terms of, water, I would like to point out to the other thing that I'm doing is Kapokseed innovation platform, where I'm trying to bring out innovations and try and help them scale. And in that, there are innovations in water. There are innovations in different sectors of the environment, where I would like to sort of recognize these innovations first, and second is to connect them with some pilot studies, some investments, and so help them scale. So because we have so many great innovations and great technologies across, it just doesn't see the light of day because for various factors. So I'm just trying to be that in between liaison, if you will, to try and help them scale.
That's good. I mean, we have to see how we can use that listening, skills, as well as your position to do that for even women in water. And also we know that water pollution and air pollution are interlinked. But at the same time, I'm curious, would you be interested to open the Wiki's air council, because there's no air council actually at this point in time, so maybe we can start talking about it.
Absolutely, I would love to.
This session, and you start creating a new community, and then we have a wider community of water and air. And thank you so much, Radhika, for all these wonderful insights. And of course, we can continue talking on these things endlessly, because we are so passionate about these concerns, as well as we seek solutions. Either we do it or someone else does it. It is irrespective of that. But for now, I will sign off from our conversation and hand it over to Anubhuti, because she has a very interesting question for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mansi. Such a pleasure.
Anubhuti, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Mansi and Radhika ma'am, for raising some very important questions and mentioning about women. Those are natural leaders, and everything they are doing single-handedly. I think all they need, like you mentioned also, like all they need to do is just believe in their thoughts. Thank you for sharing everything and talking about it. Radhika ma'am, my last question would be, would you like to share any message to the young professionals who are entering the water sector, specifically anything if you want to share to the women?
Yeah, for sure. I think if you're entering the water sector right now, it's a great time. It has always been a great time for the last 10, 15 years. It's been a great sector too. There's still a lot of work to do, and I think we need you. We need more people, more women. And why did I say women? Because if you look, whether it's an urban household, whether it's a rural household, it's the women handling the water. And as women, we are, I think we understand the nature of, how water is, and, and just, by virtue of managing it. And I feel that passion and, the kind of drive that we have to make an impact is pretty incredible. And I think you just need to bring that passion into what you do. And, as I said, there's plenty to do in the water sector. And, I would encourage all of you, all the young people who are listening, to really consider it as a game-changing career. It says, just ask yourself this one question: how do you want to impact the world? How do you want to change the world, right? And what kind of future do you see, right? And I think once you know that answer, I think it becomes very clear to you on how, on your role towards that change. And that's it. And I think you just follow your passion, and you will see, wonderful things happen as you go forward.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Like you mentioned about it's the time, like there are so many things that needs to be done. Whenever I talk to my parents, not my parents specifically, but like people who I meet, and whenever I tell them that I'm working something related to water or environment, the first reaction that I get is, oh, is it there something that you work? Like still people are not aware of a lot of things that are going on in the environment field.
Right.
So I always wonder whenever I meet you or like people like Mansi ma'am or the community that we have built, I always wonder what would have been the situation back then if it's the things are right now so different than how it must have been. So it's like wonderful to know the journey that you guys have went through. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. We are so grateful to have learned about your water endeavors. We look forward to the coming Mondays to learn more from women in water sector. The next Monday Munching and Musing is on 5th June, and we are celebrating the World Environment Day with our women water leaders and a few other council members. For regular update, please follow our social media platform. Do take care. Thank you.